let's talk about something we all deal with. Okay, let's talk about something that we all deal with, and maybe this will be a different angle we can take. Heart. We are told heart is genetics. It comes from your mom and dad. And, you know, every time I go to the doctor, they ask me a question, did your mom have a heart attack? No. How about your dad? My dad has 13 heart attacks. Really? Yes. How old was his first one? 44. How many has he had? 13. Has he had an open heart surgery? Yes. Does he have stents? Yes. 3 of them. How many angiograms? He's had 6 angiograms, 6 angioplastics. You got to be careful because you may have it, right? So what they don't know is my dad smoked cigarettes 2 packs a day for 30 years, and he drank a full glass of alcohol every single day for 30 years is what he did. I don't smoke, I don't drink. So what is the cause of heart disease and why heart attacks take place?
So, you know, we're going to have to go back.
Just remember 6th grade. 6th grade. Simplify it for us.
All right, I'll try my best, Patrick. First of all, we have to base every answer I give. I want it to be based on fact, right? Observations and fact. So fact number 1, in 1920 in this country, there was almost no heart disease. Everybody acknowledges that. In fact, there's an interesting story that a guy invented the EKG at Harvard Medical School, offered it to the Harvard faculty, and they said, there's no use for this, there's no heart disease in this country. And whenever traditional indigenous people are studied, they have no evidence of heart disease. They have no evidence of dying of heart attacks. Now, I don't know about your concept of genetics, but we're talking 2 or 3 generations ago, we went from almost nobody having heart attacks. And by the way, if you look at a cookbook from 1920, and you say, what were the healthiest foods that people should eat? It was very clear: butter, lard, and eggs, and cream. Nobody had heart attacks. The fact that now in 1940, just 1 generation later, it became the #1 killer of Americans, there is no possible way that has anything to do with genetics.
See, now I got smarter, Tom. I'm telling you, what a difference it made in the first 45 minutes. And now I'm telling you, that was ridiculous. So 1920, no heart disease, just 2 or 3 generations ago in a 1920 cookbook, they're talking about butter, lard, and eggs. In 1940, a generation later, they're calling that the #1 killer. So who wrote the 1940 cookbooks and who made us think that these things kill us with heart attacks? And then when do we start having heart attacks?
We started having heart attacks with the 2 major things happened. 1, the major change in the American diet, away from healthy fats and towards margarine, Crisco, and other processed foods. 3 things. 2, the second thing was the widespread use of chemicals in agriculture and food and DDT and all the rest of it. And 3 was the increasing electrification of the earth, which we now know interferes with your ability to generate oxygen and to use oxygen. So as soon as those 3 things happen, you see this epidemic of heart disease. Now, here's another thing, Patrick. You know, if you ask 100 doctors, 100 lay people, 100 people off the street, why do people have heart attacks, right? They say the exact same thing. You have these 3 major coronary arteries. They carry all the blood to your heart. 1 of them gets blocked with plaque, or 2 of them, or 3 of them. The blood can't get through, and then you have a heart attack and die, right?
Sure.
Everybody knows that.
Yep.
You with me?
I'm with you. This part, I'm with you, 6th grade, fully qualified.
Got it. Okay. Now let's dissect this out a little bit. I've seen probably 100 people come to my office, say 50-year-old man. Let me stop for a minute here. Let me go back a little bit. So would you agree that if there's something blocking your arteries, it's probably in your blood?
Sure.
Right? Second question. Do you think the blood in your coronary arteries, the heart arteries, is the same blood as you have in your spleen and liver and foot and everywhere else?
I would assume so.
Yes, I would too.
Okay.
So the blood leading to your spleen has whatever it is that's causing the plaque, just like in the coronary arteries. So you must get plaque in your splenic artery as well, right?
Sure, yes.
Now, how many people have you heard of who've had spleen attacks?
I've never heard of spleen attacks.
So I have given lectures to maybe 50 to 100,000 people in my career. One of the questions, if I'm talking about heart, please raise your hand if you've heard of anybody or know of anybody who had a spleen attack, a liver attack, a foot attack, or a kidney attack. You know how many people raised their hands?
None.
None. Now, next question. How many of you know somebody personally or in the news who had a heart attack?
Plenty.
100%.
Sure.
How come? Same arteries, same
Advertised.
blood, same
Yeah.
plaque. How come? Next question. Guy comes to me. I've seen this probably 50 times, maybe 100 times, because I wrote a book about the heart. I have a medicine
Sure. Yeah.
for the heart. People come to me. 50-year-old guy. Doc, I walked up a hill. I felt a little pressure in my chest. I went to the doctor. He said, oh, you might have heart disease. We got to check your arteries. Does an angiogram. Says you have a 95% blockage. Usually they go like this. And if you block any more, you're going to die of a heart attack, right? I've heard that 100 times. Let's think about this for a minute. We're told that all the blood to your heart goes through those 3 arteries, right?
Sure.
That's why they unblock them. You, not you, but the guy who came to me,
The
you have
50-year-old.
5% blood flow through your artery.
Okay.
How did you walk up that hill? Next question. You mean if you, not you, but that guy, you block from 5% to 3%, that's going to kill you? I don't believe it. 5% is no blood flow. 3%, 5%, exactly the same. There is no evidence that that makes any difference at all. Next thing, there was the biggest study ever done on people who died of heart attacks. They did it with autopsies. A guy named Giorgio Baroldi.
What year was this?
What?
What year was it?
2000 something.
So this is recent. It's not
Recent.
a 20s or 40s. It's a recent
No,
one.
this is
Okay.
2010, 13,
Okay.
12,
Got it.
I don't know. If you want to read the entire book, if you're a glutton for scientific punishment, go to heartattacknew.com. At the bottom, there's a print version. Baroldi prints the whole version, does autopsies 50 years on people who die of heart attacks. He says 41% of them have a blocked artery. And of that blockage, 50% come after the heart attack, not before. So if you do the math, that means that 80% of the heart attacks have no evidence of any blockage in the artery leading to that part of the heart. None. Now, when I wrote the book, I pointed that out and said, what is the reason why these other 80% die? And in fact, if you look at the studies of stents and bypasses, right? So these are mechanisms or strategies to clear out the arteries. If it was just a blockage, it should work. Every single one of them, the conclusion is there's no evidence that having a stent makes you live longer or not have a second heart attack. And then in October 2018, in the Lancet, for the first time, they did a blinded study of stents, right? So they took, I don't know how many, I think 70 people who had a single vessel blockage, right? Half of them they put a stent in, the other half they put a catheter in. They told them they put a stent in but didn't, and they assessed them 8 weeks later. They had the exact same amount of chest pain. So now in the headlines of the article was stents proven useless. Now, it's therefore proven that stents don't prevent further heart attacks. They don't make you live longer, and they don't help you have less chest pain. And so it's very difficult to say, so what is the benefit? And I can't think of any. And in the article, they said, there must be something else that is causing people to have heart attacks. And essentially then the European Heart Association redid their typology of heart disease and said 60 to 80% of people who have heart disease, signs and symptoms, have no evidence of any plaque buildup. So essentially the whole plaque thing, at most it has to do with 20%. And the fact of the matter is most of the blood flow to our heart doesn't come from these arteries anyways. It is basically a watershed with millions of little capillaries, just like a watershed instead of a river. And when you have disease in how you generate energy, then you have a heart attack.
So what do you do now to prevent from having a heart attack? Like, you know, a basic question for you where somebody could apply right off the bat. When you order food, what foods do you absolutely avoid?
So I interpret questions, as you can see. You have to forgive me. So here's another way to ask that. Tom, should I read labels? Right? That's another way to ask that.
Sure.
Tom's answer, no. If it has a label, don't eat it. In other words,
don't eat it.
In other words, you go to the store or you go to a market or you go to a tree and you see that's an apple. You don't need a label. That's a fish. Or here's another way to say that. We know that the people in 1920 didn't have heart attacks. Eat what they ate. They had bacon and eggs for breakfast. The bacon was on pasture-raised pigs, because if you keep a pig in confinement, it will become toxic, and then it will, quote, get infected. Just
but
like
that's helpful right there. What you just said is helpful. Pasture-raised pigs.
Right.
Right.
Pasture-raised pigs, cows that are on pasture, okay, so that they have all the healthy nutrients, and then freshly ground wheat that you bake into sourdough bread, and vegetables from your garden. And if it has a label, don't eat it. And I didn't say don't eat processed food, because like making bacon is processed food, or eating sauerkraut. And here's another thing, Patrick. If you go back to your traditional Iranian diet from 2 generations ago, number one, they didn't have heart disease. Number two, they probably lived long, healthy lives. And number three, they ate exactly what I described.
I think I'm going to move into that forest right behind you and learn how to hunt and just live there. That's why I forget about this business stuff. I don't know what I'm putting myself through, Doc. I might just go and live in the forest, learn how to hunt, live like they lived before, and live a couple hundred years.
You don't have to do that. All you have to do is go get Nourishing Traditions and get my heart book and follow the guidelines.
Fair enough. So we'll do that, and we'll put the link below. Also, we'll put the link below to the article you asked for, you suggested with the gentleman on the bottom of that website. We'll put that link below as well. That was very helpful.